Hey guys, how's it going? So today I wanted to do a very Canadian resin project. I found the perfect candle that I want to make a mold of at the thrift store. It's this adorable grizzly bear. I personally have always wanted to see a bear in the wild, and that has not happened yet, but the day that happens, y'all are gonna know. I've been organizing all of my materials, like all of my flowers and leaves and plants, into different mason jars based on color and size, so I really want to go through all of them, maybe add some mushrooms, and I even have some leaves from last fall, so this is going to be a really good accumulation of a bunch of seasons. The first project that I'm doing while I'm living in my van full-time, so it's kind of tricky. I've been having to leave a Tupperware full of my resin things curing overnight just under my van, and you know, it's been working. Also going to be doing a couple crystals because you guys know I suck at measuring my resin, so I always have a little bit of extra, and I'm going to be working on some floral crystals. I have some yellow roses that I might throw in there, or some pine cones. It's going to be a lot of fun, whatever we decide to do. So I'm going to be starting this process with some liquid latex mold builder that I always use for my process whenever I want to create anything out of resin. It's pretty durable. It only takes a few days to create the mold, and then once that's done, I start to fill it up with whatever materials that I like. I love my process because it's really versatile and I can do it with a bunch of different sculptures, anything that I can find or even make myself, and it's a lot of fun. Sorry I had to move you, the sun got really intense for a second and I can't see anything. That's all I had to say. Here's the candle that I found at the thrift store. So I cut off the wick and then sprayed it with a Mod Podge sealer just to make it as shiny as possible and try to make sure that none of the paint or wax or anything comes off while I'm making the mold. But I wanted to see if the spray would help make the mold shinier in any way. After a few layers of liquid latex, I could take the mold off of the bear. A little bit of it did peel, but I cleaned that off with some rubbing alcohol spray, and then I got to get into all of my materials and organize what I wanted to use and pick out some of my favorite things from all my jars. I wanted to get pretty crazy with the colors, so I picked out a lot of pink and yellow. I enjoy that I can think about each flower and know a little bit about where it came from, where I found it, or what I needed it for. I like that I have a connection to all of my collection. So I pour out just enough resin to layer the bottom of each of the molds. I like to have a base layer cured so that the flowers will be a little bit separated from the very top layer. It'll give a nice magnified effect and them floating in a space. I only wait for this layer to semi-cure before I start adding some flowers to it. When it's a more jelly, thicker consistency, the flowers will rest in the resin really nicely. So I put in this large, beautiful yellow Gerber daisy, sprinkle in a few pine cones behind that, some pink petals, this really pretty dark purple flower that I have. I wish I could name all these things, but you know, it's just whatever's growing around me. I'm sorry guys, one day I will learn, and this will sound like the smartest YouTube channel ever, but it's not. So I add all of these flowers and continuously add layers of resin as the first layers cure. In this project, I'm using a polyester resin, so luckily that cures a little bit faster, especially when I'm working in the sunshine, and I work on getting these molds filled. Listening to the playlist of loud crickets and even louder cicadas. Oh, and hello Toronto, I guess airplanes are competing as well. I finish off the bottom layer with a bright red maple leaf, sprinkle in a little bit of baby's breath just because I had it, and I thought it would be a really nice contrast, very Canadian, white and red, and then just a eucalyptus leaf. So as I unmold the bear, there is this very sticky layer of resin still coating it. This is just because the resin needs to be exposed to air to fully cure. This is a casting craft polyester thing, I'm not sure why. but it's not a big deal to me because whenever I use my latex mold, I really want to add a top coat of resin to make things super glossy and super shiny. I don't really like losing a lot of detail like in the fur and the eyes and stuff, but this resin dries in really good thin layers, especially when I apply it with this silicone brush. And I work on covering the sculpture in sections because it's really easy to miss a spot. It's kind of hard to see, so I work very systematically and work around the entire bear. I will also be having to sand the bottom and add another layer of resin there too, after I wait another day for this top layer to cure. I also work on covering one of the crystals in a top coat because it came out of the mold really uneven. It was crystal clear inside, but it really needed this other coat just to shine things up. I really prefer when they come out a lot smoother, but it's trickier to do with polyester resin some of the time. So I let them sit in a patch of sunshine for as long as possible just outside my van and wait for them to get ready to be sanded down with my Dremel just a little bit more to get their final shape. Be sure to wear goggles when you're sanding. It is the worst to get a little piece of resin in your eye. Been there, suffered that for you. Just wear protective eyewear. And for this project, since I'm not selling these pieces and I'm just keeping them for myself, I just touched them up with some clear coat nail polish just to give it that shine, get rid of all those dull edges from sanding. The reason I don't use nail polish on all my pieces is because it tends to scratch a lot more easier. For small little blemishes, it's fine, but when you're coating a side like I had to do for one of these pieces, it may get damaged pretty quickly. But besides that, I love these pieces so much. I think they turned out really beautifully and I'm excited to just get lost in them, you know? Pretend I'm a little person walking through a big old flower forest. So I'm gonna go through how these guys turned out. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna start with that. So the crystals were kind of fun to do. This one was just a bunch of different colors. It is kind of empty at the top, but I think that magnifies it really nicely, and it does have a very interesting texture. That's because I top coated it and treated it a lot. It didn't turn out amazing when I took it out of the mold in the first place, but I think it got somewhere, and I kind of like the raw look that the texture gives it. Kind of more authentic to an actual crystal or a stone that you find in nature. So it doesn't bother me at all, and I think it just adds a cool effect. My other crystal has a little pine cone in it. Should have had a pine cone on the top too. I should have thrown one in first. This is nice. It's a yellow rose with some pink petals and then just a pine cone in the corner there. So it turned out really shiny and really pretty, and I like it. And here is the bear that I did. So there is tons of stuff going on in here. The big flower in the top, the yellow there, is a Gerber daisy. It was a dried Gerber daisy that I had from an old project that I did of a wedding bouquet. You should check out that video next. And then there's some eucalyptus on the bottom, some eucalyptus up here. You guys saw how much eucalyptus I put in here. I tried to put a fair bit because I liked how earthy tone and neutral it was. Since it was a bear, I did try to go a little bit darker, and I think it worked out because of this purple down here. The pine cone is brown, and then how it mixes with the purple and the red, it kind of looks brown altogether, which is kind of perfect because it's a grizzly bear. But the face turned out great. There is a little bump in the butt. There's a little bit of baby's breath in the bottom, and there's even a thistle right inside the face. This is intriguing to me. This is something that I'll look back and definitely decorate my van with. I'll have to find the perfect spot for it, but I think it's a perfect little Canadian treasure because it's made up of a bunch of stuff that I found here, and it's like a national animal. It isn't actually a national animal, I don't think, but it's a cool animal. Wait, aren't they on the toonie? Let me know if you guys like my little bear animal, and I'm gonna think of what I could do next. Okay, so thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're sticking around this long because you obviously want to chat, and I'll talk to you guys later.